Have you ever wondered what it would actually take to skip school for an entire day, fool every adult around you, and still get away with it completely? Welcome back for another English movie review lesson. I'm Teacher Teddy, and today, let's talk about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The story begins by introducing Ferris Bueller, a popular, endlessly confident high school student in a quiet Chicago suburb who decides, almost on a whim, to skip school for the day. Skip school is our first phrasal verb. It means to deliberately not attend school without a good reason. Ferris fakes being sick to convince his parents to let him stay home. To pull it off, Ferris has to convince his more anxious best friend, Cameron, to join him, and talk his girlfriend, Sloane, into leaving school too, by pretending her grandmother has died. Pull it off means to succeed at something difficult or risky. The entire film is really one long test of whether Ferris can actually pull off his plan without getting caught. Ferris also has to trick the school's secretary and, eventually, his own school records, using a fairly elaborate plan involving Cameron's answering machine and some clever technical tricks for 1986. To call in sick means to phone somewhere, usually work or school, to say you're ill and won't be attending. Ferris arranges for someone to call in sick on his behalf, using a disguised voice to fool the school office. Meanwhile, Ferris's school principal, Ed Rooney, becomes suspicious and spends the entire day trying to catch Ferris in the act, convinced he's faking it. Catch someone in the act isn't strictly a phrasal verb, but figure out is. It means to work something out or understand it after some thought. Rooney spends most of the film trying to figure out exactly how Ferris keeps getting away with things. Get away with something means to avoid punishment or consequences for something wrong you've done. It's arguably the single most important phrasal verb in the entire film. The whole plot is basically one long test of whether Ferris can get away with it. Ferris's sister, Jeannie, is furious that her brother seems to break every rule without consequence, and spends much of the film trying to prove to their parents that he's lying about being ill. Jeannie has put up with Ferris getting away with things for years, and this is finally the day she decides to do something about it. Has put up with means to tolerate something annoying or unpleasant for a long time. A phrasal verb pattern using 3 words together rather than the usual 2. Her frustration eventually leads her into her own smaller side plot involving the police station and an unexpected romantic encounter, giving the film a second storyline running alongside Ferris's main adventure. Cover for someone means to protect them by lying or pretending on their behalf. Ferris's friends, and even strangers, end up covering for him throughout the day, almost without meaning to. Meanwhile, Ferris, Cameron, and Sloane spend the day driving around Chicago in Cameron's father's prized sports car, visiting a fancy restaurant, an art museum, and a large public parade, where Ferris ends up performing in front of an enormous crowd. Cameron had always looked up to his father's car far more than he looked up to his father himself, treating it almost as a symbol of the approval he could never quite earn. Looked up to means to admire or respect someone deeply, another useful phrasal verb worth knowing well beyond this film. The trio ends up talking their way into the restaurant under a false name, sneaking into the art museum without paying, and eventually joining a real public parade taking place in the city that day, blending in as though they belong there entirely. Talk your way into somewhere means to use clever, persuasive speech to gain entry or access you wouldn't normally be allowed. It's one of the film's most repeated tricks, used again and again throughout the day. Show up means to arrive somewhere, often unexpectedly. At several points in the film, other characters show up in places Ferris didn't expect, forcing him to think fast to avoid being caught. Cameron's arc is really the emotional center of the film underneath all the comedy. He starts the day anxious and passive, and gradually works up the courage to stand up to his distant, controlling father by the end. Stand up to someone means to confront them bravely, especially someone more powerful than you. It's a genuinely different kind of phrasal verb from the ones about lying and hiding. This one is about courage, not deception. By the end of the day, the trio narrowly avoids getting caught multiple times, and Ferris manages to sneak back into bed before his parents get home, appearing to have been sick the whole time. Sneak back into means to return somewhere quietly and secretly without being noticed. Ferris just barely makes it back into bed in time in one of the film's tensest final moments. Now, let's talk about how this story is told, and it's worth comparing this film to another John Hughes film from around the same period, The Breakfast Club. Critics often compare the two directly, since both are stories about teenagers pushing back against school authority. But they take almost opposite approaches. The Breakfast Club is introspective and honest about teenage struggles, while Ferris Bueller is a much more light-hearted, wish-fulfillment fantasy, with a hero who never really faces any serious consequences at all. You can see that difference clearly in how each film ends. One with characters opening up emotionally to each other, the other with a confident wink straight to the camera. This episode also has 5 bonus vocabulary words to review, pulled from how critics have actually described this film. Our first word is beloved. Beloved describes something widely and affectionately loved by many people over a long period of time. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is called one of the most beloved comedies of the 1980s. Our second word is irreverent. Irreverent describes an attitude that doesn't show the expected respect towards serious or authority figures. Ferris's entire personality is built around a cheerful, irreverent attitude towards school and authority. Our third word is enduring. Enduring describes something that continues to be valued and effective over a long period without losing its appeal. Critics regularly describe the film's sense of freedom and rebellion as enduring. Our fourth word is privileged. Privileged describes having advantages, usually related to money or social position, that most other people don't have. Some retrospective criticism has focused on how privileged Ferris actually is, coming from a comfortable, wealthy family. Our fifth and final word is durable. Durable describes something that continues to last and hold up well over a long time. Few 1980s comedies have proven as culturally durable as this one, still widely referenced and rewatched today. Now, let's talk about how Ferris Bueller's Day Off has actually been received. and why people are still discussing it nearly 4 decades later. Critically and commercially, the film was a big success from the start, becoming one of the top-grossing films of 1986, a year that also included Top Gun and Aliens. On Rotten Tomatoes, it holds an 83% overall score, with an even higher 92% audience score, showing genuinely strong affection from everyday viewers over the decades since release. Much of the more recent discussion, though, has taken a slightly different turn. Around the film's 25th anniversary, several critics pointed out that Ferris himself is an extremely privileged character. Popular, confident, and financially comfortable, cutting school essentially for fun, with none of the real risk a less fortunate student might actually face for doing the same thing. That reassessment hasn't dented the film's popularity, though. It remains a fixture of best of the 80s lists, and Cameron's quieter, more emotional storyline is now frequently pointed to as the film's most genuinely substantial thread, underneath all its more famous comic set pieces. Online, discussion of the film today tends to focus on a few recurring topics. Whether Ferris himself is actually a likable character, or a slightly smug one, Cameron's arc as the film's real emotional core, and its lasting influence on nearly every teen comedy that followed it. Let's go through the phrasal verbs from this episode. Skip school. To deliberately not attend school without a good reason. Ferris decided to skip school for the day. Pull it off. To succeed at something difficult or risky. He somehow managed to pull off his entire plan. Call in sick. To phone somewhere to say you're ill and won't attend. Someone called in sick on Ferris's behalf. Figure out. To work something out or understand it after thought. Rooney spent the whole day trying to figure it out. Get away with something. To avoid punishment or consequences for something wrong. The whole plot is about whether Ferris can get away with it. Cover for someone. To protect them by lying or pretending on their behalf. His friends kept covering for him all day. Show up. To arrive somewhere, often unexpectedly. Other characters kept showing up at the worst possible moments. Stand up to someone. To confront them bravely, especially someone more powerful. Cameron finally stands up to his father. Sneak back into. To return somewhere quietly and secretly. Ferris sneaks back into bed just in time. Try describing your own day using at least 2 of these phrasal verbs, instead of a longer, more formal alternative. Let's also go through our 5 bonus vocabulary words from this episode. Beloved. Widely and affectionately loved over a long period of time. It's one of the most beloved comedies of its decade. Irreverent. Not showing the expected respect towards serious or authority figures. His attitude towards school is cheerfully irreverent. Enduring. continuing to be valued and effective over a long period. Its sense of freedom feels genuinely enduring. Privileged. Having advantages, usually related to money or social position. Some critics point out how privileged the main character actually is. Durable. Continuing to last and hold up well over a long time. Few 80s comedies have proven this culturally durable. Try using one or two of these 5 words yourself, either to describe this particular film or another comedy you happen to know well. So, what's the final verdict on Ferris Bueller's Day Off? It's a genuinely funny, endlessly quotable comedy that's earned its lasting reputation, even if modern viewers might notice its main character's privilege a little more clearly than audiences did back in 1986. Underneath the comedy, Cameron's quieter story about finally standing up for himself gives the film real emotional weight it doesn't always get credit for. If you enjoy light, feel-good comedies with genuine heart underneath the mischief, this one holds up remarkably well, even nearly 40 years on from its original release. Did you enjoy Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Let me know in the comments on the video, or get in touch. If this helped you improve your English today, subscribe on YouTube, or follow along on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for more movies reviewed in slow, clear English. Interactive learning materials for this lesson can be found for free on engmoviereviews.com.